Hello friends, welcome to Crime Story channel, and today I will be telling you about a crime incident that took place in Agra, Uttar Pradesh. So let's learn about this incident, friends. Prabhat Vishwas, who lived in the village Pawan of the Gopal Nagar police station in the district of 24 Parganas, West Bengal, used to work as a farmer. His family, consisting of his wife, 2 sons and a daughter, depended on the income from this farming. With the earnings, he was also educating his children, and when his daughter grew up, married her off. Prabhat had arranged for his daughter Preeti's marriage to Shravan Vishwas, a resident of the village Chalmandal in his district. Shravan Vishwas was an unqualified doctor who ran a clinic named Chandasi Dawakhana in the Kasba Jarar of the Agra district, Uttar Pradesh. Since Shravan's clinic was doing well, Prabhat's elder son, Praveen, was inspired by him and decided to become an unqualified doctor, just like his brother-in-law. Along with his studies, he began working as a compounder at a doctor's clinic. While pursuing his graduation, he learned a lot about medicine and started thinking about opening his own clinic, just like his brother-in-law. After preparing to open a clinic, Praveen went to his brother-in-law Shravan's clinic in Kasba Jarar. After working with him for some time and feeling confident, he started looking for a place to open his own clinic. A friend of Praveen's, P.K. Rai, who ran a clinic in the Kasba Rukta area of Agra, helped him. Praveen rented a shop in Rukta and opened a clinic under the name Bengali Dawakhana. For accommodation, he rented a room for 800 rupees per month in the house of Haji Mustaqim. Mustaqim's family lived in the house across the street, and the only tenants in his building were renters. Praveen's room was separate from the other tenants. He worked at his clinic all day and returned home at night. Since he was alone, he had to manage everything himself. He was not satisfied with his earnings, given the hard work he put in, but his behavior was such that everyone around him was happy. Despite this, Praveen didn't have many friends, perhaps because he came from a place where the food, lifestyle, and manners were different from those of the locals. One day, while lost in thought, Praveen's phone rang. His phone had dual SIMs, one from Agra and the other from 24 Parganas. Although there was no real need for the 24 Parganas number, he hadn't closed it, just in case he needed it when he visited home. When the phone rang, Praveen noticed that the call was coming from the 24 Parganas number, and the number on the screen appeared to be from the same region. He quickly answered the phone. "Hello," he said, and on the other end, a sweet voice said, "Sorry, I dialed your number by mistake." Before Praveen could say anything, the call was disconnected. Her voice was so sweet, like honey, and Praveen wanted to hear it again. Though he knew calling her back might not be right, he couldn't resist and decided to call her back. She answered, and after a brief exchange, she told him, "I apologized earlier. How many times do I have to say sorry? I didn't call to ask for more apologies. I called because I like your voice and I wanted to hear it again. So let's talk. I'll say some things and you say some things too." Praveen, surprised, was happy that she didn't mind his behavior. He asked, "Why don't you just say that you want to be friends with me?" The girl responded, "I'm actually ready to be friends with you." Praveen said, "I accept your proposal. Why don't we talk more?" They continued their conversation and soon became friends. She introduced herself as Mallika, and they spoke in Bengali, which was the common language between them. Though Praveen shared a lot about himself, Mallika never told him much about her. She remained a mystery to him. One day, when Praveen insisted, Mallika admitted that she loved him and asked him to consider her as his girlfriend. Praveen was thrilled and wanted to meet her. Mallika invited him to meet at the 24 Parganas bus stop the next day. When Praveen reached the bus stop, he saw a beautiful woman approaching and thought, "If this is Mallika, how wonderful it would be." As he stared at her, the woman took out her phone to make a call, and at that moment, Praveen's phone rang. He quickly answered, and the voice on the other end asked, "Where are you?" "Right in front of you," Praveen responded, and to his surprise, the woman smiled and said, "So you are Praveen?" "Yes, I am," he replied, overjoyed to finally meet Mallika, who was even more beautiful than he had imagined. They were both excited and began to talk about their future together. He took her to the restaurant for tea and snacks. When the conversation started, Mallika said seriously, "Praveen, tell me honestly, how much do you love me, and what would you do for me? If there was a way to measure love, I would measure it and tell you. But just understand this, I love you more than anything. What more can I say? Placing his hand over Mallika's, Praveen said, "If you love me this much, I should tell you everything about myself too, because until now I haven't shared anything about me. Praveen, I'm not just unmarried, but I also have a 10-year-old son. My husband lives in Kuwait, and because of that, we can only meet for a few days every 2 years. I live here with my in-laws. Due to my husband being so far away, I constantly long for love." After hearing Mallika's truth, Praveen was stunned, as though someone had shattered his dreams. The woman he loved dearly was someone else's responsibility. He couldn't find words, and his shock was evident. Seeing this, Mallika said, "You don't need to worry, Praveen. I love you as much as you love me. For you, I could leave my husband and son, even the whole world." Praveen, regaining his composure, asked, "Really? You would leave everything for me?" "Yes, I would leave everything for you. But don't leave me in trouble," Mallika said. "You're a doctor, so you should understand the pain in my heart. Tell me, you won't deceive me, will you?" Mallika's words gave Praveen a little relief. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Okay, tell me, you will only be mine from now on, right?" "Yes, I will only be yours," Mallika replied. "Let's go somewhere else now," Mallika suggested. Praveen, wanting to make Mallika completely his, booked a room in a middle-class hotel and took her there. In the privacy of the room, Praveen learned that Mallika's family, both her maternal and paternal sides, were quite wealthy. Her husband worked in Kuwait, and even then, Mallika wore jewelry worth about 4 to 5 tolas of gold. Taking advantage of the seclusion in the hotel room, Praveen made Mallika his. He learned everything about her, but only told her that he was a doctor and not yet married. Mallika assumed that being a doctor meant he was educated and, like other doctors, earning a lot of money. She was considering staying with him, thinking he was financially well off. In reality, however, Praveen was a quack doctor. He had opened a clinic, but his earnings barely covered his expenses. After learning about Mallika, Praveen started thinking about how he could change his fate through her. Mallika's marriage was with Krishna, who lived in the town of Chalu Mendal, in the Gopalpur police station area of 24 Parganas. He had a large mansion in the city of 24 Parganas. In her in-laws' home, Mallika lacked nothing, except for the fact that her husband lived in Kuwait while she stayed with her in-laws. She wanted to be with her husband, but Krishna was unwilling to bring her to Kuwait, saying that if both of them went, their parents would be left alone here. Mallika continued to try to distract herself with her son Aprin. But when the son grew up, she started missing the lack of a husband. Her youthful dreams began to fade in loneliness, and the hunger in her body started to make her restless. In such a situation, her phone accidentally connected to Praveen's mobile, and their friendship began to blossom, even though they hadn't met before. After this, it seemed like her whole world had changed. The hunger in her body grew stronger, and love blossomed. After staying in the village for a few days, Praveen returned, and long conversations started between them. Mallika began to dream of spending her future with him because she knew that Krishna would never change. So, without caring about him, she told Praveen one day that they needed to make a decision about their relationship. "I'll come to your place during Durga Puja, and we'll talk about it then," Praveen said, and started preparing to go home. During Durga Puja, they met and decided that this time, Praveen would go to Agra, and Mallika would go with him. They would get married there and live peacefully. Mallika didn't even think about Krishna, her family, or her 10-year-old son's well-being. On the day Mallika was supposed to leave with Praveen, she told her mother-in-law she was going to the market and left home. When Mallika didn't return by night, her mother-in-law started searching for her. Since no one was home, she called other relatives to help search. When Mallika's whereabouts remained unknown, Krishna was called and informed that his wife was missing. As soon as Krishna got the news, he came home and registered a missing person report, and the police began searching for Mallika. Praveen had taken Mallika to his sister's house in Jarar. His sister Preeti was happy to meet Mallika and treated them both with warmth. While staying at his sister's house, Praveen planned to go to Nagpur with Mallika. On October 18, 2014, He booked a reservation on the Chhattisgarh Express, but for some reason, he canceled it and brought Mallika to his room in Runkata. When Mallika saw Praveen's room and clinic, she was shocked. What she had imagined with Praveen was completely different here. She was disappointed and realized that she had been deceived. The dreams of a car, house, servants, and a comfortable life faded, and she knew she had been betrayed. But she was trapped now and didn't know what to do. Realizing that she couldn't live her life based only on physical pleasures, she started thinking about her next move. The next day, Praveen took Mallika to see the Taj Mahal, where they took photos together. He seemed to sense Mallika's change in heart and started promising that he would soon buy another house, open a good clinic, and start a business. He was living alone and hadn't worried about anything, but now with her arrival, he was getting anxious. During Diwali, Praveen took Mallika to his sister's house in Jarar, but returned the very next day. Despite his efforts, Mallika's mind had already changed. She realized nothing would change here, and she started missing her son. She had realized her mistake and told Praveen on the way back from Jarar to Runkata that she couldn't stay with him anymore. Upon returning home, Mallika started preparing to leave. Praveen tried to convince her that he couldn't live without her. He also feared that she would take the expensive jewelry and cash she had brought with her. His obsession with her leaving grew, and on October 25th, during Bhai Dooj when his clinic was closed, Praveen continued to try convincing her to stay, but she refused. His concern wasn't so much for Mallika leaving as it was for the jewelry and money she might take with her. In his desperation, he decided that even if he had to kill her, he wouldn't let her leave with anything. Around 8 p.m., Praveen bought 2 bottles of cold drink from Mustaqim's shop. He mixed a sedative in one bottle and gave it to Mallika while he drank from the other bottle. He told her to stop insisting on leaving, but Mallika firmly refused, saying she wouldn't waste her life here. After that, Praveen became silent. When Mallika became unconscious from the drink, Praveen locked the doors and strangled her with a piece of cloth. She couldn't even make a sound due to the drug. After killing her in a fit of rage, Praveen became anxious about what to do next. He feared the police and law. To escape, he thought of running away and starting a new life somewhere far with the jewelry and cash Mallika had brought. But he knew, no matter where he went, he couldn't escape the law. The next morning, someone found a disfigured body near the railway tracks and notified the police. Ashish Kumar Singh, the police officer from the Sikandra police station, arrived at the scene with his team. They found a bag with clothes and jewelry, and the body was later identified as Dr. Praveen Vishwas's. When the police were told that he had a wife, they sent an officer to his house. The door was locked, and when they peered through the window, they saw a woman's body. They broke open the door and found Mallika's body inside. The police collected the bodies and sent them for post-mortem. A diary found in Praveen's room had the phone number of his brother-in-law, Shravanan Vishwas. When the police contacted him, they informed him of Praveen's death and Mallika's murder. Shravanan, along with his wife, rushed to Runkata. Following this, the police filed a case against Praveen for Mallika's murder, as well as a case regarding his death. They found Mallika's jewelry and cash with Praveen, while her jewelry was still on her body. Mallika's phone helped the police trace her husband, Krishna, who was soon informed of her death. Krishna arrived with his uncle the next day and arranged for Mallika's cremation in Agra. Krishna stated that Mallika had brought a lot of jewelry and cash with her, and Praveen's family also performed her final rites in Agra. In the end, blinded by greed, Praveen not only murdered Mallika, but also ruined his own home.